Hello, everybody. Welcome on the Lights on Data show. My name is George.
And my name is Diana.
And today we are going to be talking about building governed data products without all the mesh.
Wow. Forgot I had to say my name. Our wonderful guest today is called Vishal Singh. Vishal has very vast product and engineering leadership experience. He is passionate about solving customers' problems. Vishal started his career as a software engineer and transitioned into product leadership over the years. Currently, our guest is head of products, and data governance at Starburst. We can't wait to hear everything that our lovely guest has to share today. Welcome, Vishal.
Thank you so much, George and Diana, for having me on the show. Really excited about it.
We're very happy to have you as well. And as always, before we go into our today's topic and today's content, we wanted to ask you about a hobby or a fun fact about yourself.
The hobby. I live in New England, so one of my
Mm,
hobbies is going hiking. There are a lot of
nice.
48,000 peakers here, so I try to go out there once in a while. And fun fact: I actually learned English at the age of 16. Before that, I didn't know
Wow.
how to speak English.
Well,
Nice.
we don't
It-
notice.
yeah.
It's
I
like you
was
grow
mentioning
up
that to
learning.
you that you don't have any accent, whereas I kept my accent even though I came to Canada when I was 15. So yeah, well done.
Well, good for you. That's amazing. All right, so let's go into the topic. What is a data product?
It's a great question. I think the if you ask many people, you'll probably get like 10 different meanings of how data products are.
Yeah.
I'll keep it simple. One of the ways I see data product is like any data which you can treat as a product. And if you think about product principles, what are product principles? Is that how do can I am I getting insight which is useful for my business or the customers? Am I actually what is the next version of the product coming out? How can I actually make sure there's proper quality control on that product is? And that doesn't have to be around data, it's any product. So if you
Mhm.
take the exactly same principles and apply it to a data set, the curated data set, or even sometime the source data set, in a way that your consumers know that this is one of the business approved data sets with the enriched metadata around it and the context around it. I know the what is the SLA looks like. I know the how the quality is. And not only is being told by my data team that I need to trust it, but I can also verify my trust by looking at the metadata of the data product itself.
Okay. So in order to have all of that, to have that quality tied to it, to have that metadata and all the information, we need to govern it.
Yep.
But there are challenges. What are some of those challenges that organizations are facing when building governed data products?
So, it totally depends on who you talk to. If you talk to the enterprise, the challenge is very much different. If you talk to a mid market or the SMB, the challenge is completely different. Even writing a product, also, like if you think about how many unit tests get written into the early stage product and how many unit tests get written into really mature product. And I use this similar concept when I talk about data product too. One of our customers, actually, in the financial industry, was saying the biggest challenge in data product is just creating a data product and
Mm,
actually sharing the data product. Then comes like how do I govern it? When I talk about creating data products, because data itself lives into multiple places. It could be in a lake, it could be in a warehouse. There are different owners for the lake. There are different owners for sysadmin for different warehouses. Now, how do I combine the data? First of all, that data which I'm going to combine is also being governed by different set of folks. Now I'm going to combine the data and share it with different set of folks while governing it. So over the process, not only how can I easily understand and get and find my data set and create a consumable business approved data set with ensuring that I am not breaking anything behind the scene when I'm actually going to consume it. Also, when I share it, my consumers can, I'm also confident enough that the security and compliance and the governance and the quality and all those are also flowing from back to the where data product is to also to where it's going to get consumed. So it's hard to pinpoint a challenge. That's what I said. Like it depends on enterprise. They have a different approval flow and whatnot they want to actually put into place. While if you talk to SMBs, their challenge is, I just want to get not care about the governance, I just want to share the data and then think about governance over the years.
So, that being said, from your perspective, what are some common misconceptions or pitfalls that organizations might face when implementing data governance for these data products?
So one of the pitfalls and things when think about governance is like people start thinking that I need to think about the governance at the level of the data set, at the column and everything, because people deep dive into, which is not a bad thing to think about it. But when I talk about governance, I actually ask organization, let's understand the use cases and
Mhm.
the teams they're actually trying to solve. Because if you go to their governance challenges in Europe, their governance challenge in the regional side in US, so let's understand what data is actually needed by your team, and also what kind of data they're looking to actually produce to get the business insight.
Hmm.
Once that's care, and if you actually think about the business attributes, instead of actually applying the business attribute, creating the rules based on the teams, the creating the rules based on the business team attributes domain, then it's going to scale over time. So when people start saying like, I need to make sure this column is masked, they forgot about the business side of the why the column needs to be masked. They actually deep dive into the column needs to be masked. So just up leveling the conversation, let's figure it out why this column has to be masked and which is the persona who's going to consume this data product and why there has to be a column masking, a row level filtering, or even the some kind of table level attributes that needs to be accessed to the different teams or to different business units in the organization.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. Um, I want us to just address the data mesh concept a little bit because it's been an up and coming in the last couple of years. We've been hearing about it more and more. And this data mesh is this social technical approach to building a decentralized data architecture by leveraging that domain oriented self-service design. And well, there are definitely there can be some advantages to it. But
Yep.
what are also how does the concept of without all the mesh align with the goal of building governed data products on the other hand?
Great. I mean, first of all, I like the data mesh actually talks about one basic principles is that how can we make sure there's agility in the organization and how can we empower every team to do what they are allowed to do without being blocked on the different process. And that's how up level the conversation. Again, data mesh has its own principles, and all the principles are great, but now again it goes to the size of the organization who you're talking to. So some data mesh principles, if you are, I'm going to have start with all the domains, I'm going to start with all the nitty gritty details of the data mesh before I build the data products, then you're actually probably on level 10. Let's start small. Start think about what is your organization needed this time. I mean, the great example is, again, like first of all, when the people build product in the early stage, they are trying to just find the business reason why this product needs to be built. They're trying to find the product market fit. Same thing on data product too. Let's just build small. Let's figure it out. That is product going to be consumed by your organization in your team, and is it going to be popular in the organization or not? And then slowly over the time, if the organization wants to have thousands of teams and every team needs to operate independently, then they can actually approach from data mesh side of it, the domain orientation and whatnot. But that's probably I'll say like it's a North Star goal. That's how I say it.
Mm-hmm.
But you always can start like by just creating, by having a central team who can govern the data products, because that's where the most organizations are. How can we actually start where you are without just thinking about changing every process in a day, because nobody will be able to achieve that. So how can we start small and see that where is the most benefit you can get by going into making you empowering your team and having agility in the organization. And if you think small, then comes like, let's ensure that are people able to just find business approved data products in the organization. And that is the first problem. Then if they find it, can they understand the data? If they understand the data, if they don't have access, can they reach out to the owner to get the access data? So if you actually stop stepping into just basic problems in the organization, and if you start attacking it one by one, people will not even realize by the end of the goal, which is a North Star goal, they might actually end up following data mesh all the principles without even realizing they're doing it. But if they actually shoot for the star, then you might forget there are different steps they're not taking before they actually shoot for the stars.
Beautiful. And of course, with all of these concepts in place and all the goodwill too, I think we also need some tools if you're going to do things efficiently. And I do want to ask you, if you don't mind, how does Starburst approach then? Starburst. Really help organizations address the challenges of building governed data products.
Great. I mean, the one thing which I say, Starburst is built on a Trino, which was previously known as Presto. So I take it back to the Presto days and look at the old days, why Presto was developed, which we later renamed the Trino. When Presto was developed, Facebook, there was a challenge of accessing the data, the petabytes of data. If you look at the challenge today, what is the problem? Accessing your data across multiple sources. How do I? That was a challenge which Facebook foresaw a decade ago. Like, how do we actually, because Facebook was advanced, where the companies are finding themselves, Facebook saw itself about a decade ago. So they actually came up with the architecture. How can we make sure that you are getting still the full performance of a warehouse without actually able to move the data in a warehouse and able to just access the data? And that, if you take that problem, that Facebook actually created, again, amazing tool, Presto, which over the years have been matured and became Trino. What Trino does is just access all your data across all the regions in different lakes, in different warehouses, and can give you a single view to all your data sets across everywhere. Now, that comes with other problems with the governance. Like, if I'm having a single view to all the data, how do I ensure that? And that was a challenge at Facebook too. So this is why when the Presto was developed, they also thought about it. How can it also have a single layer of security and auditability in Trino? So that was also built in a Trino over the years advanced to make sure that it's a single place where all the queries get audited, where all the access control get audited, and everything gets audited in Trino. Now, what happens is that with taking that, if you take out the data product, what it allows you to give you access to all the data sets, where with the full auditability and governance on the top of it, you can actually create this curated set of data set with something in GCP, something in AWS, something in a warehouse or a lake, and quickly take that query and create a data set which customers have been asking for. Once the data has been created by data team, they can actually make it as a business approved data product and expose it and promote it for data consumers. As a data consumer, when they come in, if I go back to say, like, as a data consumer, if I just have access to one table, my life is easier. If I have access to 10 tables, I don't know which one to use. Now, suddenly I have access to a million table, I probably will be lost. So, and that's a similar challenge here too. So what big data products does is what data team can do. They can just allow data consumers to either go into the raw source and look at all the data they can have access to, but also know at the same time that these are business approved data products by my organization. I can click into it, understand where it is coming from, the raw sources, again, because of Trino, and also understand that how the query was written, and also understand how often the query is getting refreshed, how the data is getting refreshed, all because of Trino. What Starburst has done, build an amazing user experience on the top of that to expose those functionality in most elegant way, and also able to search it, able to understand it, and also to, for example, we build attribute-based access control, so able to not just govern with what was given by Trino, or we actually built and extended that with another amazing functionality called attribute-based access control, and a few more things coming, like lineage, profiling, and quality on top of the functionality which already exists in Trino. So what we did, we just used Trino, which has been scaled at the Facebook and Netflix level, to make it easier and consumable for customers in a single place.
Nice self-serve solution for those data consumers. And Starburst has quite a few products. The one that you were specifically talking to, was it Starburst Gravity?
Starburst Gravity. So Starburst Gravity is a subset of Starburst Galaxy. So Galaxy is our full platform where you can connect the data sets, you can consume the data sets, you can actually connect across all three clouds, and you can manage all the compute of all three clouds in a single place. What Gravity does, which extend, it actually comes with the cherry on the top, which I said it's a full data catalog solution with a full governance solution, and also able to actually just look at the business approved data products and consume it right there with the extensibility to consume in Tableau, Power BI, or any tools of your choice. So that extends the power of the Starburst Galaxy in the hands of the data consumers.
Nice, thank you. And I just want to clarify something or inquire about something. You mentioned in order to for these data products to be consumed properly, they need to be understood. And in order to be understood, you need to tie in that metadata, those definitions back to those data sets, maybe even up to the data element. Who's doing all of that?
So I'll tell a story without saying the name. Actually, he's very popular on LinkedIn. I'm not going to use his name. But I was chatting with him, and then he didn't mention that one of the challenge he had in his organization, that he has a data cataloging solution, and then he also had the warehouse. So people will create this curated data sets and curated data products, and then the people who are creating the curated data products were actually data team, data engineers, but then they were doing in a console which didn't do the documentation. So then they have to do the documentation. They probably go out of the console, they go somebody else console, and there they are doing documentation. The most data catalog companies, how they work is that they sync over some time. They actually make sure they're cataloging that what you're producing is also synced with what they have, which means there's always a lag between any documentation of data and where the data is being produced. Now, so to the organization which I'm mentioning, what they have to do, then nobody will go use the data catalog, even though it was really powerful for searchability. So they actually gave the Amazon business, $50 card to actually write the documentation on those data sets into data catalog so that people can search it. And that is the major challenge in many organizations, because the tools where you actually create the data set and tools where you write the documentation, they are governed by completely different teams.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I write the documentation, I don't even know what I need to write. How do I update the documentation if I updated the data set? So what we did, we brought those together where you can actually, while you're creating the data set, you are also can create the documentation while you're doing it. So it's a one step ahead. Second thing we did, because we being a query engine, we know exactly how many queries are being written. I know who is writing the queries. So all those metrics doesn't have to be crawled. They're automatically populated thanks to Trino, is in a most elegant way where people can understand how this is being consumed across my organization and who is consuming it. And that's nothing crawling because of the query engine. We have all the metrics. We're just exposing it to data consumer to understand that. And the last piece is, I guess, two pieces of documentation. One, technical documentation, which is needed by data team. They don't need to understand all detailed business documentation. They need to know how data is being consumed, who is consuming it, what is auditability, how can give access to data set, and brief technical documentation. Then there's a business documentation needed, but nobody writes business documentation on a million tables. They probably write on 10 tables or 20 tables, which is being as consumed by the business team. So we also split the documentation with the technical documentation that some of the technical documentation get automatically populated by the comments and whatnot from the sources coming in. And then if you want to enrich the business documentation, there's an option right there in Starburst Galaxy where you can come in and enrich full markdown support for business documentation, which is mainly intended for business team to come in, not only understand the technical side of where the data is coming from, but also understand the business side, how the data should be used, and what are the use cases where I should be using these data sets.
You wanted to ask something,
because listening to you, Vishal, I was craving a very concrete example, and I wanted to ask if you have any success stories to share, any real life examples from your customers.
Absolutely. In fact, there's a customer. Again, I cannot use the name of the company, but there's an oil gas customer who are actually using our data products. The way and there's actually they're using with the on the top of LLM on the top of that. So one of the things which we have also heard that the large language models is a great for the business users to write queries, but then the quality issue there, like how do I know that I can trust this data? So what this customer has done is that they actually take all the data. There's a data team that take the disparate source of data sets from multiple cloud, region, or on-prem, and actually bring and curate it and add the documentation and then bring their users to the interface of just a curated data set. But they also have applied large language models on the top of them, just on the data product. So what happens is that instead of actually maintaining all the raw sources and how the data is actually coming to the raw data set, a bronze layer or some other layer, they've only applied it on the data products level, which they are very confident in maintaining the quality all as going through. So when someone comes in and ask the, for example, Chat GPT, what is the my financial score looks like for this month or something, that goes to all the business documentation, which comes with the data products, also the quality control, which the team is actually deliberately maintaining it because this is consumed to the business user. So this is why the large language models has been pretty successful in that organization. So I love that story because I hear all the time that people being scared of Chat GPT, which I believe that Chat GPT or large language on top of data product is the future to go.
Nice. As Susan Walsh is mentioning, sounds like a no-brainer. Thank you, by the way, everybody that's tuning in, and thanks to all of our fans and friends for your constant support. I do want to also take some questions here from the audience as they've been piling up.
Absolutely.
And the first one that I want to take is from Niraj Dugar, and he is asking when a curated data set becomes a data product, or what a data product does that a curated data set cannot.
I think it's a great question. It comes on all the time. So let me give an example. I take a couple of, I create this deep model using DBT. By the way, in the Starburst Galaxy, you can actually use DBT and create a curated model within the Galaxy itself. And you can promote any model to get data products within the Galaxy, by the way. So let's say if I don't want to promote to that model to be a data product. So I have this table, is views, a couple of data sets, which is model, and that is a data product. As a business consumer, I come in, I look at 10 different tables. One of the table is a model, which I think is completely curated and meant for some specific use case. But I'm just looking at 10 tables. I have no idea which one was curated. I also do not know that out of 10 tables, what use cases is being solved by the tables. No idea, because I'm just looking at the data set. So the point becomes, how can you tell the story when the data is being refreshed? Who's the owner? What is the metadata looks like? What is the business logic looks like? That's the metadata layer on the top of it. And again, when I talk about, there's a different set of metadata. These are enriched business metadata with the different quality control on the top of it. Again, if you are maintaining quality on 10,000 tables, it's a big task to do. Mm-hmm. If you're maintaining quality of 10, 20 data products and everything else, you're actually just a matter of the code, then again, it's a different task to do. The point is, how can, again, I go back to the roots. How can we scale and be an agile in the terms of development? So curated data sets is great, and that's where some people may start. But as you scale, how do I make sure that some other user come in, instead of finding that curated data set, they're now recreating the same data set, which may already been created in the organization, because that's also easy to do than actually talking to 10 different people, which leads to multiple exactly same data set. So one way I say, reusable data set, which have been curated for a reason, and that will be a data product.
Thank you. And we have a follow-up here from the wonderful Ravit of the Ravit Show, which I know you know. And he's wondering, when do you say this is a perfect data product, or is that a myth? A perfect data product does not exist.
I don't think anything. I don't think perfection can ever be achieved. Let me start by saying that. Otherwise, but I do say is that in the path of the perfection, data product is a path to go, which means that if I am going to be able to empowering some of my teams, and this is my opinion, which I think where the real data product, what needs to contain, it needs to expose the lineage chart. It needs to expose what different versions are going to get published. It needs to show what quality measures have you been trying on this data set, how many times the data product has failed, so and what resolutions have actually came to actually make sure that the product has came back online. Again, taking back what exactly you do on the product side.
Thank you. And I know we had some other questions here. Let me just browse really quickly.
I just wanted to say that Kate asked for swag as well, for a T-shirt, and then we have a few people writing hashtag Starburst in the hope that they are going to receive the Starburst T-shirt.
I know.
So there's a lot of interest there.
This is like
Yes.
wonderful swag. The data rebel love it. And I do want to mention this though. Here's one of the tricks. If you go to starburst.com, at the top, right at the top, if you scroll, they have the launch week banner. Click on it, scroll down. I think it's on day 3 right now, and there's one more day to go. Yep. And just go through those details. You can really win some awesome swag too.
And you know what? This is day 3 of releasing data products from federated queries. So, just try it out and write queries, convert into data products, and get a swag.
Very nice. And Scott is wondering though, where is the bunny? You had a bunny before. We need to get marketing in here too.
I have 2 bunnies in my daughter's room. If I go, they'll probably yell at me. But I did take a picture with a bunny and put on my LinkedIn profile.
Nice. Some find confusions when data products are mentioned as a word. And Scott Taylor, the data whisperer, is mentioning, do non-data people get confused by the term data product?
I believe so. And I think that's totally okay. Because, again, this is something which I'm discussing with the most folks. I think we are going to the same hype cycle as APIs. If you took at the 10 years ago how APIs were, people like, how do I use APIs? What do I APIs use for? And then I'm not comparing data products and API, but the point becomes that APIs are very useful to be able to programmatically access all the data sets. And actually, now people don't talk about it. People know exactly what the APIs do. There were different kind of APIs. Now there's a REST, there's a GraphQL, whatnot. The data product, people, if we just talk about data product, most people think that I have to do data mesh. The way I say it, you cannot achieve data mesh without data products. That's a different story. But you can do data products without data mesh. Because data product is all about, again, think about the data team, what they believe. They want to able to generate insights for the business team. What business team cares? I want to create the dashboards or whatnot for my C-level execs, and it doesn't break in the meeting. And I want this to be refreshed. And that is the high level, that is the problem. So how can we do this? Over the time, data is also expanding. Like for the time, what my data looked a month ago, that's not true today. Data is evolving and changing every week. So taking that, if you look about the old days of data engineering, where you build a pipeline and whatnot, that's great. Pipelines are amazing. But do we need pipeline for every curated data set? Probably not. More pipeline, more quality issues. Do we need 0 pipelines? Absolutely not either. So where is the balance? So there's a balance we need to achieve, that pipeline is needed for actually the right purposes. Just don't build pipeline for everyone. Somebody asks for, can I get access to data? So if you talk about all the things, and then we talk about the concept of data products, which is the attributes, able to self-service, able to understand what data sets which is completely being reused again and again in my organization. And again, how can I, instead of actually going to a table into, let's say, Snowflake, a table into, let's say, a lake, I can just start talking about, I wanted to get the finance data and I want to get the marketing data so I can understand my projection for Q3. So the point becomes like, take the conversation away from the data where it's located, but actually start talking about use cases. And that's where the data products are going to be helpful. But I think we are still in the journey. This is why I do believe that sometimes non-data people get confused. And that's why we are talking today.
Thank you. And Vishal, what would be that advice that you would give to organizations or data professionals looking to embark on that journey of building governed data products?
So one thing I'll say, let's actually start by talking to your data consumers, understand what they are looking for and what their pain points are, and also understand that how can you lower the TCO by actually instead of getting all the requests from a business user and creating a new data set for that business, but instead taking the request, prioritizing and creating a data product which can be reused for different use cases in the organization. So I'll say like think in a way which can scale and make the team more agile as more moving forward. So that's my favorite thing. Like what and some people like some people, do I need to actually define a domain? Do I need to actually do not necessarily. Sometimes it's just the data set with the quality and the governance on it. And that could be enough for the organization. Sometimes I have met the organization, they're like, I want all the data to be accessed to everyone. And
Mhm.
that's also okay. Just think about what use cases you're trying to solve in a
Mhm.
month and where you're going to scale in 6 months.
Well said. Thank you. Thank you for the advice.
Talking about next 6 months, next year, next years. What is next for Starburst?
I think the next for Starburst is the basically trying to make sure that people are able to understand the full life cycle of the data set and data products within Starburst, and also while giving our customers full optionality. Because one thing, even though we talk about data catalog or whatnot, we have in the product, but we are going to extend. We have extended to different tools, which has been a core piece of the Starburst the mental is that not only we give you you can get easily started with Starburst Galaxy, but if you're using a different tools in the organization, then you can continue using it without getting interrupted. So we just want our customer to get up and running in the smallest period of time, and we have been doing that from last couple of years when I've been here, and we continue to do that next year by bringing more functionality around data products and bringing more functionality into Starburst Galaxy.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very, very much, Vishal. We wanted to ask before before we say our goodbyes, we wanted to ask how can people find you? Where should they look for Starburst?
So I'll say like Starburst.io is where all the information is available. I'm on LinkedIn. I think that's what's shared with this show too. If you have any question, you can always shoot me, a LinkedIn message, and I will respond. I respond to everyone. For me, not only I am telling what I believe. For me,
Mhm.
learning from you all is more important for me because, as we all know, is that the tech changes every day, and I want to understand what pain and problems you all are seeing in your organization, in the community, so we can build for you.
Thank you so much, Vishal. That's very gracious of you. And I'll actually tag you in some of the questions that we were unanswered as we ran out of time.
Yeah.
But thank you for all of your time and expertise.
Yes, and this echoes very, very well what you said and how we introduced you that you love solving customer problems,
Yeah.
and I think that was very obvious throughout this whole show. So thank you very, very much for being here. Thank you for answering all these complicated questions. Thank you for what you do, and hope to see you again soon.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and thank you. And thank you to, again, all of our fans and friends for tuning in and listening and asking questions as always.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. It was really, really great chatting with you all, and all the questions were amazing.
Pleasure was all ours.